All right, so we're reviewing for the post-test. We're starting with number 4 because tomorrow is part 1 of the post-test and it has a question like this. And I thought I had my cursor working. The idea here is that we need to look at degree and leading coefficient. Maybe? No? I thought to predict end behavior, but that's not what this question asks. Just kidding. It says find the exact value for f of 0. So what are we doing there? Putting a 0 in. But then it says find the local maximum and find where it's increasing. So I think we just need to graph this anyway, don't we? All right. So -2, quantity x plus 5. Thanks. Is that one's not squared or anything? And then x minus 3 to the third. Okay, if I do just a standard window, no, not really good. What do you know about this though? It is helpful to have degree in your head. What degree is this? Not degree 5, degree 4. There's an x here and an x cubed back here. And it's negative. So an x to the 4th that's negative means both ends are going down. So this is not going to come back up if we go out further, right? We just need to see the top. So I might change the y max. I'm going to just throw in like an 80 and see what I get. Yep, not even. But, oh, we do need the max at some point, don't we? So I do have to go until this is... Seriously? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go 1,000. Which I'm going to change this then. But it doesn't matter. The scale doesn't matter. Okay, so maybe I should go down a little bit so I can... Okay, so I did -500 to 1,000 for the y's. So this is the general shape, but the bottom line is, how can I find f of 0? I could have done it by hand, but now that I have it typed in, I can just do what? I could do ask auto and put in a 0. I could I have my table on. I get 270. I could certainly just do trace 0 and I get 270. We all good? Okay, then use your calculator to find the local maximum to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to go second trace, choice 4 for maximum. And it looks to me like it's somewhere between -5 and 0. You can cursor around if you want, but I'm just going to tell it to pick between those two numbers. Now, what am I going to write down on my paper for this? -3 and 864, right? All right, and then where is this increasing? How do we just discuss or look for increasing? As we go left to right. And it is a domain interval, so that means it wants x values. Okay? Yes, it is going up here. Let me maybe put this on here. It is increasing here, and then it's decreasing, and if you get closer to here, it doesn't ever stop decreasing, right? Did anybody check right around there? Is it around negative or +3? Okay, so a little bit to the left, it was positive. If I go a little bit to the right of 3, okay, I'm not tracing. There we go, trace. It is negative. It is always decreasing. It's getting more and more negative. So the only place it was increasing was where we described, and that would be written as negative infinity until the x value of the maximum, and increasing and decreasing are always parentheses. Questions? Okay, so graph analysis is on there. The next one that's on part 1 is number 8. This is kind of what I thought the last one was, where you needed to figure out degree and leading coefficient to be able to predict end behavior. So this one has an x, another x, and an x cubed. There is no leading coefficient on any of those. So what degree is this? Degree 5 with a leading coefficient of +1. Okay. So it is just like a cubic, this is the shape. So how do we describe end behavior? F of x or y is doing what as x approaches, if I wanted to say left, what do I say? As x approaches negative infinity. And what is this doing on the left? So right here I say y is going towards negative infinity. And then to say the right, I say as x goes towards positive infinity, that one's right, this one's left. This one was down. And then f of x is up or down on the right? Up, so it's positive infinity. Anybody need me to go over that again? You remember the left, right, up, down, okay? This didn't actually ask for degree and leading coefficient, but that did help us determine end behavior. Where are the zeros here? Okay, we still got people doing this wrong. Do we include 0? Okay, if there's an x, yes, because putting an x in there will make that a 0. So 0 is a 0 of multiplicity 1, and you don't really have to write the multiplicity 1s if you don't want. What would go in here that would make that equal 0? 2, and that also has no multiplicity other than 1. And back here, -8, and you have to list the multiplicity for that one because it said including multiplicity. Now, this test is not graded 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so any little mistake you make is a ding, okay? If you forget the multiplicity, it's minus a point. All right. And I don't stop it. You know, a 2 is a concept error. That's as low as you can get. This you could keep going as many points off as you make mistakes, so be careful. Number 9, use the appropriate method of your choice. Divide this by this quantity. Give the quotient polynomial only. You may ignore any remainder. Okay, can I do synthetic here? How come? Okay, but we got to be super careful because some of you make little mistakes here. What goes in the little box? The 0, right, so -4. And do we need any 0 placeholders? 1x cubed, -6x squared, 4x, and -2. Okay, bring down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply. Someone help me. I didn't make a mistake yet, did I? 16. Is that right? Is it that disgusting? Okay. Well, we get to throw this away because it says you may ignore the remainder. So this is the remainder. Then this one is a constant. This one gets an x, and this one gets an x squared. So we have x squared minus 10x plus 44. Everybody feeling okay about that one? Anything we do that you're like, give me another example, I can certainly do that. Number 10 is also from part 1. State the number of possible real zeros and turning points. I thought that we had this down, and then on the quiz and the retakes, I have gotten some of the weirdest answers ever. You don't add anything together. The degree is the number of zeros, and the degree minus 1 is the number of turning points. Okay? That's it. So what is the degree of this? The highest coefficient, the highest exponent power, okay? And that's what the degree is. Highest exponent power. You're not adding the exponents up or something, okay? Because this is not like multiplied together. It's all factored. Okay. So it would be 4 and 3. Everybody okay? All right. Number 11. Find the factored form and all the real zeros. Okay? Real means everything except imaginary, right? Okay. What can I do to this first? Take out an x squared. That leaves x squared minus 4x minus 5. So I have x squared, and then how does x squared minus 4x minus 5 factor? Okay, x squared minus 5x plus 1x would be negative 4x, and negative 5 on the back is right. So where are those zeros? That it? Yeah, this means there's one at 0. What would the graph do there? It would bounce, but okay. So it didn't ask for multiplicity, but that one is a multiplicity too. All it asked for was the zeros. I can still put a 0 in there and I'll get out a 0, right? Yeah. If it had been x minus 3 squared, 3 would still be a 0. Yep. Anybody else? I think I have another one of those on the extra questions at the end, so I'll try to remember to do it. Number 13. Guys, this says list all the possible candidates for rational roots. Okay, it doesn't say find them, it doesn't say graph and find them, it says list them. Do you remember? It goes all the factors of what? On the top. Constant over all the factors of the leading coefficient. So for this question, it's all the factors of 4, which would be what? 1, 2, and 4. And the denominator is all the factors of, okay, so the leading, or the constant was negative 4, and the leading coefficient was 3. So all the factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. Now, if you miss even 1, you're going to lose points. So if you put a 1 over a 1, you get a 1. Put a 1 over a 3, you get a 1/3. Put a 2 over 1, you get a 2. 2 over 3 is a 2/3. 4 over 1 is 4. 4 over 3 is 4/3. No, the order absolutely doesn't matter. You have to have a plus or minus, but you can have it once and I'll be okay with that. Yes?
If we put in a fraction that would reduce to a number that's already in the list, would we get points for that?
No. Means the term that doesn't have an x. So this is the constant. Whoa, I don't know where that came from.
It's trigonometry.
Yeah, I bumped it, so it... Now I can't get rid of it. Okay. Number 14, use a graph and division to confirm which of the above are actual factors in whatever number it is. It's not 8, it's 13, right? But in this, we just made them go together so that you could save time. you should know by the fact that you listed those that we can test those, right? Okay, so I'm going to graph this. Someone's going to read it to me real fast. No, that's not working so well. Okay, 3x to the third
minus 4x.
Okay, do I have it right? Okay, I'm just going to try Zoom 6. Okay, it's not a perfect window, but looks like a -2 right there, so I'm going to guess trace -2. That's looking good. And this looks like +2 might work over here. Okay, so I found at least 2. I'm sure I could find that one. It's probably -1/3, but I have to show the work anyways, so I'm not going to get too worried about it. Okay, cute baby, but let's go back to what we're supposed to be doing here, Hoffbauer. There we go. All right. So we found 2 and -2 for starters. This is where you have to use successive division. And remember, some of these are explanation questions. So if you don't explain, you lose points. So anybody care which one we do first? Okay, let's do +2 first. 3, 1, -12, and -4 are the coefficients. It has to come out 0 or we did something wrong. As long as we graphed it and it worked. Bring down the 3, multiply is 6, add is 7, multiply is 14, add is 2, multiply is 4, add is 0. We good? All right. Now we're going to do -2. Without going back to the original, we're going to keep going. So I'm going to bring down the 3. Multiply is -6, add is 1, multiply is -2, add is 0. Okay, so what are the 3 factors? What is this factor that's left here? 3x plus 1. Okay, and the 2 that we dealt with over here were x plus 2 and x minus 2. Okay, so what was the other factor or the other root that I didn't check on the calculator? But by this it is -1/3. Now, if I did -1/3, if I had chosen it and I brought down the 3, I get -1, 0. But you can't forget that this 3 has to go somewhere over here, right? If you said this, it would be fine. But you have to have that 3 somewhere. Okay?
So either top or bottom. Bluer than green.
Down at the bottom, yes. Okay. Up here, you need all of the zeros, and down here, either one of these 2 would work. Now, can anybody give me some words so we can practice what the explanation would be? I graphed. And then how did you confirm? Successive, meaning one right after the other. Synthetic divisions. Or you could say divided using the depressed polynomial. Meaning you didn't go back to the beginning, you just kept going. Everybody good? Any questions on that? You good, Brandon?
Yep.
If you're falling asleep, guys, come get another piece of candy. All right, number 15. It says find the equation of all the vertical asymptotes of the rational function if they exist. This should say f of x. It's missing the f right there. You will have the reference sheet. Does anybody remember what makes vertical asymptotes? I can't spell. What? Yes. So if I factor this, because that's always the first thing on the reference sheet, the top does not factor, but the bottom factors x plus 1, x minus 1. Are there any holes in this graph? No, if there was a hole, it could not be a vertical asymptote. It would only be a hole. This doesn't have any holes, so the vertical asymptotes are where? What makes the denominator equal to 0? Okay, so if I just write -1 and +1, it's going to be okay? Nope. It says equation, and right on the reference sheet it says the equation is x equals... Okay, there are two vertical asymptotes at x equals -1 and x equals 1. Questions? No, I would count that right. Just don't leave off the x equals anywhere. Yep. If you wrote x equals plus or minus 1, I'd be okay with that too. Number 16. Use the appropriate rules of end behavior for the rational function. Okay. Those are on your reference sheet, right? And they're at the bottom, and it talks about top heavy, equal weight, or bottom heavy. That's what it's talking about when it says the appropriate rules of end behavior. Okay, to explain how to find its end behavior equation and then accurately find that equation for the end behavior. This is a what? Okay, so the rational function is top heavy. Whoops, top heavy. And what does it say to do when the equation is top heavy? It says there's no horizontal asymptote. Great. That's not the answer. Anybody have a reference sheet? It says there are no horizontal asymptotes. You must find either an oblique asymptote or other end behavior function. See below. End behavior function. You find the quotient polynomial ignoring the remainder. Okay? Rational function is top heavy, so I divide, ignoring remainder. Okay, so let's do that. Can we use synthetic? Sure can. What will go in the little box? -3, because it's got to be what makes that 0 in the denominator. Now, be careful. I think this one needs a 0, doesn't it? Because there's no x term in there. So we'd have 4x cubed minus 3x squared plus 0x plus 4. Bring down, multiply, add. Multiply by -3 and we get 45. Add to 0, we still have 45. Multiply by -3 and we get -135 maybe? Somebody checking that? No, that's not 0, but anyway. Yeah. And then we get to ignore the remainder, right? Any question? Did I do something wrong? Someone else getting those numbers? Okay, so what is this end behavior equation telling us? This one doesn't get an x, the next one gets an x and an x squared, right? So it is an equation. See that underlined word right there? So what are we going to write? Y equals 4x squared minus 15x plus 45. That means if I were to graph this, in the end, it would look like a parabola. Okay? It looks like a parabola, except there's some goofiness going on around what? -3. Okay? So my guess is it looks like this. Something like that. So in the end, it would look like a parabola, but there's this goofy break at -3. Okay? Number 17 is also on part 1. Do not FOIL this together. It is factored for you. It says find the interval where this function is greater than or equal to 0. So what did we do? It's this business. Do you remember these? And then you figure out where it works. So the critical values are 2x minus 1 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. So I have positive 1/2 and -5. To the left would go the -5 and to the right would go the positive 1/2, right? If you get those backwards, you're messed up for sure. Then you could certainly graph it and look at it. Two x minus 1, guys. And x. Okay. Now, so it is a parabola. We can test values to the left over here. What are they going to be? What kind of a sign on those values beyond -5? Things like -6. They're going to be positive. In between -5 and positive 1/2, like at -2, they are clearly negative. Out past positive 1/2, like at positive 1, it is positive again. Okay, so the graph looked like this. It was positive out here, negative in here, positive in here. What does this symbol mean again? Greater than or equal to. So which one, or equal to, means that I include the end. So I'm going to need square brackets. Yes, greater than means positive, right? So here and here. So I have -infinity to -5 square brackets together with 1/2 to infinity. Questions? I think that all we have left is some matrix stuff, maybe. Which I'm hoping we're good at, but some of you not so much. Number 24 is the next one I have here. In matrix multiplication, where A is 4 by 5 and B is 5 by 1, is it possible to find the product of A times B? So a 4 by 5 times a 5 by 1, and these are the same, so it's yes, and the answer will be okay. What if it said, is it possible to find B times A? So then we'd have a 5 by 1 being multiplied by a 4 by 5. And these are not equal, so you would say not possible. Any questions? All right, 25, use substitution to solve all solutions. All right, guys, we can solve this for either x or y, right? Is anyone going to be any easier to substitute into the other equation? Well, yeah, but okay, please don't do this. Can you do this? Square root that and get x plus 2y equals... No. Okay, don't do something crazy like that. Can you square the top one? Can you get x squared plus y squared equals 36? No. Not happening. All right. So, which would you rather put in? Something for x or something for y? I think x would be easier. So how could I solve this so that I was able to substitute it in for x? Yes, if I add one y over to the other side, I have 6 plus y or y plus 6. Then if I put that down in here, sorry, y plus 6, I have y plus 6, quantity squared, plus 2y squared equals 27. Now again, y plus 6 quantity squared is not y squared plus 36. What is y plus 6 times y plus 6? Yes, there's 12y because there's 6y and 6y when you do these inside and outside terms. And then a plus 36. Okay, that was just this part. So we still have a plus 2y squared equals 27. All right, so I have a 1y squared and a 2y squared, which is 3y squared. 6y and 6y is 12y. And 36 minus 27 is 9. Okay, so what could I take out of all those if I want? I can factor out a 3. Then I'll have y squared plus 4y plus 3. Okay, someone's going to list 3, or whatever you just factored out, because they did it on the quiz Friday. Can 3 equal 0? It's not 3x, it's just a 3. Though when you factor this, then what does equal 0? Yeah, y equals -3 or -1. Now, each of those y values has a separate x value. So if y is -3 or if y is -1, I have to put them each individually. Oh, that one didn't show up very well. I have to put them each individually back in here. So x would equal -3 plus 6 or +3. And here x would equal -1 plus 6 or 5. And then I could test them real quick down here. X squared plus 2y squared is supposed to be 27. That would be 9 plus 2 times 9. That does equal 9 plus 18 is 27, so this one works. That's a 3, by the way. A little hard to read. And then this one back here, if I square that, I get 25 plus 2 times 1 is 27. Has to work in both equations. Can I mix and match? No. I can't write 3 -1 or -1 or I don't know. Each one has to work as an ordered pair. We good? I can find another example of that if we need to. 26 given the initial inventory matrix, so this is an inventory matrix of what they currently have on an Army base. Then a shipment of supplies was delivered to the Army base. They did not deliver it somewhere else. It was delivered to the Army base. So what is the updated matrix? What do we need to do? Okay. We need to add because something came into the base. So now what is our new inventory? Oh, 131? How did I do there? And 177.
You guys always put in ones that are like super easy to do, and then there's just one that's like, oh, I gotta think about this one.
Any questions on that one? Number 27, choose an appropriate scalar and complete the multiplication to show the updated pricing matrix if a store decides to increase the markup an additional 12%. So we have to multiply by what? So we're going to keep this price plus we're going to add 12%, which is 112%. Only when I get rid of that percent symbol does the scalar become 1.12. Do not write 1.12%. Do you understand the difference? It is in getting rid of the percent that it becomes a scalar. Now, I wrote this as a note on some of your quizzes. How do these have to be rounded to get full credit for this question? Yes, to the nearest 100. Okay? I'm not going to bother to put it into a matrix because you know me and that silly calculator. I'm going to go 3.28 times 1.12, and then I'm going to round that to 3.67 and throw away the extra part. Then 5 times 1.12 is 5.6, so that would be $5.60. It wouldn't be wrong if you left off the 0. 149 times 1.12 is 167. And 899 times 1.12, I got 803. Any questions? Guys, if the answer says this, how does that round? Yes. If you're rounding here, it doesn't matter that this would round this up and so on. You only look at the next one. This would be 174. This is not half of anything back here. Point. All right. Yes.
I got 10.07 that last one.
Oh, I pushed divide. Thank you. I was just going to say, this is a question where you should make sure you have a reasonable answer. Good call, guys. I pushed divide. So it was 899 times 1.12, 1007. Okay, that's why, just what I was going to say, thank you, is it should be reasonable. They should have all gone up in price a little bit, right? All right, any questions on that one? All right, create a matrix that could be reduced to row echelon form to solve this system of equations. Please don't reduce it, but there is a typo, I think, on this question. Yes? This is supposed to be a W right here. I wasn't trying to trick you into combining like terms or something, okay? So it's all one matrix. I did have people get this question wrong because they didn't create a single matrix. Somebody read it to me real fast.
1 minus 5 minus 1 plus 2 plus 11. 4 plus 2 plus 0 minus 3. 17. 2, 0, 84, 1, 86, 1.
Hang on, I made matrix a little bigger. 1. Okay. And there should not really be pluses in there. We're not adding, okay? We're not adding or subtracting. It's just a signed number. So don't make that confusing. We could put a little dotted in there, but I don't care one way or the other. Everybody good? 29, write as a matrix multiplication and then solve. What goes in this one? X, Y, and Z. Over here goes the answers from the equations originally. So 10, 8, and 23. Then these were the coefficients, 1, 3, negative 1, 3, negative 1, 1, 4, 1, negative 2. We're supposed to use an inverse, so I will do it that way. You can use all one matrix. Well, actually, some people got it wrong on the quiz because when you used RREF on the last one, it did one on the quiz gave a scientific notation, and they didn't read that carefully. All right, can anybody tell me what it was?
1, 3, negative 1, 1. 4, 1, negative.
Did I get it right, guys? And then I have to go in and edit matrix B. And what size is matrix B going to be? A 3 by 1. Can anybody remind me what it said? 10, 8, and 23? So then on the home screen, I have to put the name of matrix A, hit the inverse button, and then times the name of matrix B. A few people forgot the inverse button, I think, and got this one wrong. 4, 1, negative 3. Okay. This is a reduced row echelon form. What does this line mean? Actually, tell me what each one means. The top means x plus 4z equals negative 9, and y plus 7z equals 3. And this one means 0 equals 0, which is true. So therefore, it has many solutions. And then I think this part is multiple choice on the quiz. But you have to get this to say y equals 3 minus 7z, and this one to say x equals negative 9 minus 4z. I'll go ahead and put the extra examples on the video in case anyone rewatches it tonight, okay? We did have a couple extra examples. You good, Martin, with this one? All right, so here's extra practice on this idea.
Can we make triangle less painful, please?
So we had a 0 at negative 3 and positive 5. If you graph it, it's a parabola that looks like this. So this wants to know where it's less than 0, which would be in here. So we'd have negative 3 to 5. No or equal to's on that one? Oh, this is on the final? Oh, part 2. Okay. Part 1. Ooh, that one's tricky. Yeah, you too. This is a negative x times an x times an x squared. So it's a negative x to the 4th. Degree 4 with a negative leading coefficient means both ends go down. So f of x is approaching negative infinity as x approaches negative infinity, and f of x is also approaching negative infinity or going down as x approaches positive infinity. Be careful, 5 minus x equals 0 would mean a positive 5, multiplicity 1, a negative 1 from this guy, multiplicity 1, and then a negative 3, multiplicity 2. This has 4 zeros. If we factor it, it's x squared minus 5 and x squared plus 1. So that when you FOIL it back together, you get x to the 4th minus 5x squared plus 1x squared, which would be negative 4x squared, and a minus 5. X squared minus 5 equals 0 would be x squared equals 5, square root, and you get plus or minus the square root of 5. This one you would get x squared plus 1 equals 0, x squared equals negative 1. When you square root, you get i's, and that is non-real. So it says does find all exact. Well, all right. This would be x equals plus or minus I. So if you were talking complex number system, you'd have plus or minus square root of 5 and plus or minus I. If it said real numbers, would only be plus or minus square root of 5. I can't remember what it is on the quiz. I'm pretty sure it's just real. Number of possible real zeros is the degree, which is 3. The leading coefficient is, degree minus 1, which would be 2. Factored form is take out an x, which will leave x squared minus 5x minus 14, which factors x minus 7 and x plus 2. So the zeros are 0, 7, and negative 2. All the leading coefficients and constants. So the constant would be plus or minus 1, 5, or 25 over plus or minus 1 or 3. So you'd have plus or minus 1, 5, 25, and then all of those over 3 would be 1/3, 5/3, and 25/3. Then if you graph it, it has zeros at -5, and +5 or 3, I can't. +5. So if I do 5, 3, -1, -75, and 25, bring down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Then if I do -5 with successive division, multiply, add, multiply, add. So my factors at the end are 3x minus 1, x plus 5, and x minus 5. And my zeros included positive 1/3, which you could check on the graph as well. Okay, this should have degree 4, so 4 total zeros. Possible rational roots, plus or minus 1, 2, and 4, or plus or minus 1 and 5, would be 1, 2, 4, 1/5, 2/5, 4/5. Okay, see which ones work. Five x to the fourth minus 21x to the third plus 9x squared oh my goodness, I can't type. Minus 21x plus 4. All right. So it looks like the zeros occur at 4. Okay, I don't know if I have this typed in wrong. Okay, this is weird. I'm getting 4 and 1/5 as the zeros. So if I do 4, I have 5, negative 21, 9, negative 21, and 4. Bring down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. And then the only other one I have is 1/5. Bring down, multiply would be 1, multiply, add, multiply, add. So I have left 5x squared plus 0x plus 5, which if I take out a 5 would have x squared plus 1, which would have no real solutions. So that's why the only real ones are at 4 and 1/5, and the factored form would be this, as long as we did a 1/5, or we could have written it as x squared plus 1 if we multiplied the 5x through there. Okay, that one's weird. It's not on the final like that, where it has imaginary zeros. Okay. If I put a 0 in here, I'll have 2 times negative 4 to the third times negative 3 squared, which would be 2, I'm just going to go ahead and type this in as a graph anyway, 2x plus 4 quantity to the third times x minus 3 quantity squared. Okay, this one goes up really high, comes back down, and all kinds of crazy business. So I'm going to make my window, leave the x's negative 10 to 10. I'm going to try 1,000 to negative 200 for my y's. Say, except I did that backwards. It's going to be negative 200 to 1,000. Oh, great. It's not even high enough yet at 1,000. So if I make it 1,500, so my window was negative 10 to 10 for x's and negative 200 to 1500. All right, so if I put in a 0, trace 0, I get 1152. Find the zeros, including multiplicity. 2 is not a 0. So the zeros are at negative 4, multiplicity 3, and 3, multiplicity 2. It has a local maximum. If I do that on my calculator, choice 4, and it's somewhere between negative 1 and positive 2, it looks like. And it is 0.1999, which would be 0.20, and 1161.699 or 70. So this is what the graph looks like. Where is it decreasing? This is all increasing, and then it's decreasing here. So this had an x value up here of 0.20, and I need to find the x value of the minimum down here, which is somewhere between, I would say, 2 and 5. This had a value of 3, 0. So the x value is decreasing from positive 0.2 to positive 3. Another one of these. I think you got this, guys. Okay, one more quick one. Solve algebraically. We're going to put this in here. So we'll say x plus 1 equals x squared minus 5. If I get it equal to 0, I'll have x squared minus x minus 6. Factor very carefully. Some of you, when you have 6, you factor wrong. Minus 3 and plus 2 will give you negative 1x in the middle and a negative 6 at the back. So x equals 3 or 2. And then if you go back up here, you can put it in either one, but it says if you take the x and add 1, you'll get the y. So 3 plus 1 would be 4, or 2 plus 1 would be 3. So there's the two ordered pairs, 3, 4, and 2, 3. So this one, you could substitute in y equals 4 minus x. So you'd have x squared plus 4 minus x, quantity squared equals 16, which would be x squared plus 16 minus 8x after you did minus 4 and minus 4x. If you move everything over so that it's equal to 0, you get 2x squared minus 8x. Those subtract away. Take out a 2x. You have x minus 4. So you get x equals 0 or x equals 4. 2 cannot equal 0. So you only have two ordered pairs, and then you put those x's back in here. So 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So the two ordered pairs you get are 0, 4, and 4, 0. End behavior real quick. This one is equal weight. So you'd have y equals leading coefficient over leading coefficient, or y equals 4/3. This one is top heavy. So you would divide. Ignore the remainder, and you'd end up with y equals x minus 6. This one is bottom heavy. So you get y equals 0 as the end behavior. That was a good review. So this one would be x equals 4, y equals 3, z equals 8, and you'd have 4, 3, 8, 1 solution. This would be x plus 5z equals 4, y equals 7, and 0 equals 5, which is no solution. This would be x plus 2z equals -3, which if you solve for x, -3 minus 2z. The next one is y plus 2z equals 5, or y equals 5 minus 2z. And this one basically says 0z equals 0. Any number could be z. So you would say many solutions, where z could be anything, and this would be 5 minus 2z, and x would be -3 minus 2z. Can only have one variable in the end. Okay, that's it. I only skipped one.